Welcome to Being at Home with George. Very excited to be here and this idea of creating the possibility of being able to embrace whatever comes up, which could be good, bad, ugly, joy, love, peace, and at the same time generating the hope, seeing everything as an opportunity to find our masterpiece or our divine spark. It's appropriate because I think of the eye of the hurricane, and actually that's the name of my company, the Eye of the Hurricane LLC. It's really important because that's where we can be ourselves, that's where we can find ourselves. And it's interesting because when I think about this idea of creating space between stimulus and response, and this is what Viktor Frankl says, and I read this is what I put in my book. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. And our response lies our growth and our freedom, our opportunity to access the space within is the opportunity for us to access our masterpiece within, that still small voice that we talk about sometimes. And so I like to read from page 74 of my book, The Mindful Athlete, this idea of the center space. This calm center space is what anchors the mindful athlete in the present moment and facilitates high performance and flow. Joseph Campbell alluded to it in his conversation with journalist Bill Moyers in The Power of Myth. He said, the athlete who is in championship form has a quiet place in himself, and it's out of that his action comes. If he's all in the action field, he's not performing properly. There's a center out of which you act. In dance, this is true too. There's a center that has to be known and held. It's quite physically recognized by the person. But unless this center has been found, you're torn apart. Tension comes. And so this idea of the eye of the hurricane, this idea of understanding how we are reacting or responding to a situation, especially being hurricane season, we're being inundated with strong winds in some places. Even before the hurricane season, they're dealing with fires and floods and tornadoes. There's all sorts of maladies that are arising. And so this idea of how do we manage that? How do we create this space between stimulus and response where we can be coming out of that quiet place that Joseph Campbell talks about so that we're able to make wise choices. We're able to see things in ways that allow us to do what we talk about doing every week, which is how can we create this ability to embrace whatever comes and goes, whether it's fear or desire. Can we just hold our center by embracing things and saying yes to them, and at the same time generating hope or holding the possibility that, oh, this is not a roadblock. This could be a stepping stone. This is an opportunity for me to learn something about myself, to get in touch with that still small voice inside of us, that quiet place within the eye of the hurricane. And being hurricane season, you can see there's a lot of damage going on, but right in the middle, everything is calm and there's blue sky, and that's where our masterpiece is. That's where we have the best perspective to be able to observe things without being pulled towards something strong desire or to avoid fear, or what is the opposite of one is pleasant and one is unpleasant. And the nervous system was programmed to move towards approach what is pleasant and to avoid what's not pleasant and space out if it's neither. So we need to be able to be present, be still, and be able to respond to whether it's fear or strong desire. Fear or strong desire, it doesn't matter. We can hold our center, and by creating that space between stimulus and response, that's where our freedom, that's where our transformation, that's where we can make the choices that are in alignment with who we say we are. We can say yes to life by making those choices that are consistent with wanting more life, wanting to build something. And so for me, this has been a metaphor I use, and it's interesting just to share the story about how I came up with the eye of the hurricane. It really goes back to the days before I worked with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, when I used to watch Michael Jordan perform. And it seemed to me that as the game got more intense and it got more like a whirlwind or chaotic, he would get more calm. And the metaphor I used was he was the calm in the eye of the storm. He was just able to perform at a high level. So he was accessing that quiet place that Joseph Campbell talks about. And a lot of people don't understand that even though we see Joseph Campbell as this scholar and this mythologist and, understanding religion and spirituality, he was actually an elite athlete to perform at Columbia on the Olympic. I think he was number 2 in the world running the 800 meter. And so when he talks about coming from that quiet place as an elite athlete when his days at Columbia. And so he shared that on the power of myth. Of course, I can identify with that, and just observing MJ, that's how I came up with this idea of the eye of the hurricane. And it's my experience that I've developed this and understanding that it's as simple as having a process that allows us to come from being alert and relaxed at the same time, coming from that quiet place within, so that we're not torn by tension or we're not moving towards or away from anything. We're being still so that we can observe things arising and passing away, so that we can see what's happening. And then it's something about being in that quiet place where there's this this wisdom or this knowing, this intuition, that we just know what to do, and we see things clearly, and then it's obvious what the wise choices are. And so that's what we're confronted with now, given the malaise that we seem to be in. It's the end of summer. One thing is ending, and then a new beginning, what we call fall or autumn or Indian summer, whatever we call it. But it's also back to school, and it's going back to things as they used to be, yet they're not quite there. And there's a lot of uncertainty that we're dealing with. And so the best way to do that, the best way to manage the uncertainty and all of the chaos and turmoil that's happening, whether there's storms or the COVID or just not knowing to mask or not to mask, to vaccinate, not to vaccinate, how do we stay safe and be aligned with life, treating each other like masterpieces. We have to figure out how to get along. And it's interesting because I've been experiencing just in the last couple of days, people being very hostile or just being kind of on edge. And so we need to be able to step back and relax and figure out how can we perform, in this case, just living and being in relationship with ourselves and others in a way where we're able to come out of that quiet place where there's a knowing and there's an ability to connect with our masterpiece, our divine spark, and see that we all are connected and we all are one. And we just have to figure out how to get in that space so that we're actually seeing this as an opportunity to generate hope, which is opportunity, seeing the opportunity for us to express our best selves in a way that helps others and helps ourselves. And so I want to end with just this idea of this possibility of embracing things and generating hope. And that is possible when we can be still and know, when we can come from that quiet place and not be ruled by tension, but be ruled by peace, ease, love. When I talk about performance, I'm talking about this ability to have an intention and to be able to execute it, and actually execute it in a way that we feel good about. So you can substitute performance for experience. And so if you think about it, the idea is to have an experience where we feel fully alive and we fully deployed ourselves and we feel really good about the outcome of our effort, the outcome of our intention. And so when I talk about performance, it's not just athletic performance, it's about being able to have an intention and to execute it. It's being able to make a choice that's not only wise, but is actually fruitful in the sense that it's in the moment you're experiencing positive emotions and feeling satisfaction and gratified, but you're also setting up a future that's going to bear the similar fruit. So when I talk about performance, I'm talking about being able to do what we say we want to do in a way that we feel good about, that we feel like I could fully express myself in that activity.